Shalom Aleichem. Today I would like to discuss with you the fifth of the six constant mitzvot, and that is the mitzvah of Yirat Hashem, of fearing Hashem. And I want to discuss what's the function of this mitzvah. Two, how do we inculcate within ourselves the proper fear of Hashem? And three, what does this tell us about the nature of our relationship with Hashem? So on a basic level, we are required to always fear Hashem as a deterrent to transgressing. We know the Torah requires certain things of us and requires us to refrain from certain actions. But human nature is such that we have temptations, and sometimes it can be very difficult to refrain from giving into those desires. But by being required to always fearing Hashem, to recognize that there will be consequences to our actions, that will remind us of his existence and will deter us from giving into our desires. So how do we achieve this fear of Hashem? So it's noteworthy that the Rambam gives us the same instructions for achieving fear of Hashem as he does for achieving love of Hashem. He says to achieve both, we have to consider the greatness of the world, the greatness of Hashem in creating the world, and our absolute powerlessness without him. And through that, we'll come to achieve both fear of Hashem and love of Hashem. And we might think that these two emotions, these two ways of relating to Hashem, are in conflict with each other. After all, if a person has love for someone, especially with the type of intimacy that we discussed yesterday, so it would seem to be it would seem that fear wouldn't necessarily be a component that exists. And if a person is fearful of someone, so that would seemingly be a hindrance to developing that close relationship that a person is required to have with Hashem. But I think both of these ways we're supposed to relate to Hashem, of love and fear, both come from the same source. And that's a sense of indebtedness. That when we realize that everything we have is from Hashem, and we understand that we would be nothing without him. So we have both a sense of love and appreciation for the kindness that he's bestowed upon us, but at the same time, that knowledge that there's a fundamental difference between us and Hashem will result in a certain fear. That we're only here because Hashem allows us to be here. We're really guests in his world, and therefore we have to do his will and refrain from transgressing it. I think also the fear that we're meant to have of Hashem is not the type of fear that often people have of one another. Someone has a temper where someone may lash out, and we're constantly worried we don't know how that person will react. So therefore, we're living in a state of trepidation. I think with Hashem, it's not that we know that Hashem wants to benefit us. He created the world to benefit us. And it's not that we are worried that he may act in ways that are unpredictable. Rather, it allows this relationship to be maximized. For example, parents and children, there can really be no closer love. At the same time, we're also commanded to fear our parents. It doesn't mean that a parent should act in a way that a child is scared, or that that's a proper emotion or an ideal emotion for a child to have towards a parent. But rather, the relationship between a child and parent is one of essentially a teacher and student, is that a child only exists because of their parents, and a parent is there to instruct. So that relationship, if there wasn't that sense of fear and there wasn't the appreciation of the distinction between a child and parents, so a parent wouldn't be able to maximize their role as instructing the child, and the child would be so comfortable that they probably wouldn't be able to learn and gain as much from that relationship as would be expected. And that's why these two emotions of fear and love have to exist at the same time. Is we are supposed to have that love of the great intimacy that we spoke about yesterday. But at the same time, that has to be tempered by fear. It has to be tempered by the fact that we know that we only exist because of Hashem, and we constantly have to be mindful that we should do his will and not transgress his will.